Niner gang, what is up? Today we've got the kind of updates that can shift the tone of this season. A friendly break in the schedule, a quiet new weapon joining the offense, real locker room tension around a star, and a stat most people ignore that could decide what happens in January. None of this is obvious, and a couple of these storylines are going to split the faithful. Are you ready to see both the upside and the danger in all of this? Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive in. Because what's happening behind the scenes is bigger than it looks right now. You know that feeling when the schedule finally throws you a bone? That's where the 49ers are coming out of the bye. First, you get the comfort of Levi's Stadium, at home, in front of the faithful. On top of that, you draw the Tennessee Titans, a team firmly in the conversation for worst group in the NFL right now. That's the kind of game where a real contender can't even let the other side breathe. But that's not even the most interesting part. The real gift from the schedule is hiding in a matchup that looked way more dangerous a month ago than it does today. Looking a little further down the line, that meeting with the Indianapolis Colts has completely changed shape. This was a team trending down week after week, losing identity and any sense of direction. Then the quarterback situation went from concerning to bizarre. Daniel Jones was playing solid ball, stable enough to keep the offense on schedule. Suddenly he goes down with a major Achilles injury, season over. Normally you turn to the backup and hold on. Only problem? Backup Riley Leonard went down too. That's where the story goes off the rails. The Colts hit full desperation mode and turned to a name nobody expected to see again, Philip Rivers. 44 years old, retired since 2020, 5 years without throwing an NFL pass, and possibly going straight from the couch to facing one of the most physical defenses in the league. Faithful, be honest. How much of a threat can that really be if the 49ers show up locked in and professional? On paper, the defensive game plan basically writes itself. Load the box, choke out Jonathan Taylor, and dare Rivers to beat you over the top. Even with the pass rush underperforming this season, this is a game where you expect the front to create pressure, force mistakes, and keep flipping the field. Sure, the Colts might put together a drive or two. This is the NFL, nobody gets blown out automatically. But it cannot go beyond that. Losing to a team in free fall, led by a quarterback yanked out of retirement, would be flat out unacceptable when you're fighting for seeding in a crowded NFC playoff race and still keeping an eye on the NFC West crown. Games like this define whether people see you as a true contender or just another talented but unfocused team. Now let's talk about a move that won't light up national headlines but could quietly matter to this offense. Jayvon Baker joining the 49ers practice squad. At first glance, it doesn't feel like a blockbuster. It's not a superstar trade or a splash signing. But if you've watched how this front office builds rosters, you know these under-the-radar decisions usually say a lot about what they're seeing. When Jayvon Jennings is out, you feel it. Jordan Watkins has been a regular healthy scratch. Junior Bergen hasn't had a real shot. Malik Turner has only seen the field in emergencies. You can't go into a playoff run relying on hope at the bottom of the depth chart. That's where Baker becomes interesting. His NFL resume so far is almost blank. 7 games, 1 catch. But you turn on the college tape at UCF and the profile jumps out. 71st percentile wingspan. Physical at the catch point. The ability to shield defenders, high point throws, and run the kind of routes that live in this West Coast offense. Curls, in-breakers, verticals that stress the secondary. On top of that, he's got that competitive edge on screens and underneath throws, fighting for extra yards like every snap matters. That's the kind of trait Shanahan and this staff have turned into production before. New England gave up on him fast. Philadelphia didn't hang on long either. That doesn't automatically mean he can't play. Sometimes it's about timing, scheme fit, or just being buried behind a crowded room. And if there's one place where receivers have a history of resurrecting careers or finally breaking through, it's in an offense like this one in Santa Clara. Baker doesn't need to walk in and be a savior. He just has to be functional and reliable. Meanwhile, the practice squad as a whole keeps shifting. Eddie Pinheiro is ready, Matt Gay is let go, Adrian Martinez is released as well. Small moves on paper, but they send a clear message. This team is scanning every inch of the roster and making tweaks now so problems don't explode later. If Baker can give you a key block on the perimeter here, A tough third down catch there. One chunk play when the defense overshades Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle, that can be the difference between stalling out and keeping a playoff drive alive. When it comes to locker room tension, few topics hit harder than John Lynch opening up about Brandon Ayuk and Mac Jones. Two completely different situations, two totally different emotional tones, but both tied directly to this franchise's future. With Ayuk, it feels like the fan base is stuck between empathy and frustration. On one hand, he's battling back from serious ACL and MCL injuries suffered last season. Everyone knows how brutal that road can be. On the other, you start hearing reports about missed rehab sessions, friction with the organization, and money for 2026 being voided, and it's impossible not to feel like this relationship is straining. From the outside, that move to void his guarantees for 2026 looked like the neon sign of an eventual breakup. Yet every time Lynch talks, he refuses to close that door. He admits there have been bumps. He doesn't pretend it's been smooth, but he keeps coming back to the same idea. The story isn't written yet. That's a direct message to the faithful. Don't write this guy off. The Niners are a better team when Ayuk is on the field, and everybody knows it. The problem is time. The longer he stays away from practice, the longer the recovery drags with no clear timeline, the louder one question gets. Have we already watched Brandon Ayuk's last snap in red and gold? On the flip side, you've got Mac Jones, who went from being labeled a failed experiment in New England to stabilizing this offense when Brock Purdy had to nurse that turf toe. In Shanahan's system, Jones found something that had been missing: rhythm, timing, confidence, and that calculated aggression that lets you attack without constantly risking turnovers. That kind of resurgence doesn't go unnoticed. A young quarterback, under contract through 2026, playing efficient ball in a quarterback-friendly system, front offices will call once the offseason hits. Lynch's answer is telling. He doesn't rule anything out, because no GM ever does. But he leans into something Bill Walsh believed in: quarterback room depth. The more quality guys you have in that room, the better your chances when the season gets weird, and it always gets weird. Right now, the 49ers believe deeply in Brock Purdy. Mac Jones has earned real trust. Younger guys like Curtis Rourke have helped build a room that's competitive, loose, and productive. And while trade rumors are easy content, messing with that chemistry isn't high on the priority list while this team is still chasing a playoff run. Now zoom out. The final stretch is when pretenders tap out and real contenders show up. Even with all the injuries and inconsistency around this season, the 49ers are still right in the middle of the NFC fight. Sitting at 9-4 after the bye, holding the number 6 seed, they're watching chaos unfold around them. The Bears just went from number 1 all the way down to number 6. 7 after getting punched by the Packers. The NFC South looks like a weekly contest of who can mess up less between the Buccaneers and Panthers. Then you look at the NFC West, and it feels like the toughest neighborhood in football. The Rams are playing like a juggernaut at 10-3 with an MVP-level quarterback and a top 3 scoring defense. The Seahawks are right there at 10-3 as well, flying around on defense and lighting up the scoreboard with Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And there sits San Francisco, one game back at 9-4, missing stars like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, watching other starters cycle in and out of the lineup, and still sitting with a top 10 scoring defense and an offense that keeps humming whether it's Purdy or Jones under center. Here's the piece almost nobody talks about, and that might matter more than any highlight: discipline. While everyone obsesses over explosive plays and big names, the 49ers have quietly become one of the cleanest teams in the league, second in fewest penalties per game, second in fewest penalty yards, and when the season was on the line over the last 3 games, all must-win situations, they took it up another notch, averaging just 2 flags and barely double digits in penalty yards. That doesn't happen by accident. That's culture and coaching. That's a locker room that understands the margin for error is razor thin. In a world where the Rams and Seahawks look like buzzsaws, where the NFC playoff picture changes every week, and where 1 or 2 plays can swing seeding, being that locked in matters. Especially if this team ends up going on the road as a wild card, flying into hostile stadiums and trying to extend this playoff run 1 week at a time. You win those games by being resilient, physical, and disciplined. For all the criticism about the pass rush not being dominant, the combination of a steady offense and a low mistake profile might be the secret weapon nobody is respecting enough. At the end of the day, everything we covered points to a 49ers team that doesn't just survive, it adapts and keeps believing. The schedule opened a door. A quiet practice squad addition might become a useful piece. A tense situation with a star wideout still has room for a better ending. And this group's discipline remains a real weapon when it matters most. The faithful can feel that something is still growing here, even in the middle of all the NFC chaos. So here's the question. Are we on the verge of the kind of late-season run nobody saw coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ride with us through every step of this stretch run.